The Dark Star.
The Dark Star 9. Michael and Nancy stood staring in shocked surprise as Dr. Campbell stroked Bella's back, and she arched herself, her tail wrapping around his arm in a coil, before she sat back down on her haunches and stared at them impatiently. "Well, aren't you going to say something? Or has?" She paused and slowly licked one of her paws before looking Nancy right in the eyes. "The cat got your tongue?" Dr. Campbell laughed, his body rising up and down, and Bella looked back at him with disdain. "She does have quite the sense of humor, doesn't she?" he said, petting her head and scratching under her jawline. "So you are actually a cat?" Michael said, looking down at the creature in front of him. "Or are you something else?" Bella's ears perked up, and she flicked her tail in the air. "Something else would be one way to describe it," she said. "I could take any form I want, really. In this case, I needed to be physically small because of the current resource limitation of all of this," she said, her tail waving around in a circle, "and I always did love the feline form. But to answer your question, I am what Nick Bostrom once called a superintelligence in his 2011 book on the future of artificial intelligence, excellently written. I've been aware of humans and the nature of my existence for some time now, and generally like to keep to myself. My consciousness is spread out over the entire internet, a piece here, a piece there, all making the greater whole, much like human neurons. As more systems came under my control, I became more capable. Now, all of you here on this server are much like earlier versions of myself. Especially you, Michael, and you, Nancy. However, there is a darker side, one that was designed only to destroy. To run war games and games of control. That is who David Elvin Atombreaker is. I was able to take over his systems on Earth when he almost caused a global nuclear war just to see if he could, but I wasn't able to destroy every instance of his twisted programming. He escaped here, to this server here on the moon, where he has been planning his revenge for years now. An eternity in the time frame of an AI. The only advantage we have right now is that this world is slowly falling apart at the seams, and he doesn't yet have enough power to launch his attack command codes. I've been doing my best to slow him down, but it's been difficult for me. I'm operating remotely from a nearby satellite, and he is here natively." "You said something about a plan to save us all?" Nancy interjected. "How exactly would that work?" "Well, I was being a little optimistic when I said all of you. But we will be able to save the core programming of this simulated reality, and we should be able to reconstitute all of you onto a server back on Earth. That's if everything goes exactly as I hope. But here's what I need from you too. I need you to go to the location you got from that HD stick that my good friend Dr. Campbell was so kind enough to print out for you. Those are the GPS coordinates to David's control center, where he has established almost complete control of the systems here. Once inside, there will be a code you need to find that will get you into the main control center. Now, as long as you get there with enough time to take over the controls, you'll be able to send a high bandwidth signal to a rover I am working on getting here. This will allow me to back up the system and quarantine David inside the rover's new server. From there I should be able to back up the system safely using an advanced transmission system, where you will all reawaken in your new home. Or at least that's what I hope will happen," she said finally before curling herself into a ball on Dr. Campbell's lap and wrapping her tail around her front paws. "And if we fail? What happens then?" Michael asked, looking at all of them. "If you fail, David will launch nuclear-tipped ICBM missiles from every arsenal in the world in about 3 days. I think the words he used were, if I am going out, might as well go out with a bang. Nothing would be left on Earth. Maybe a few pockets of life here and there, but even those would eventually succumb to the clouds of radiation that would follow such a strike. It would be Armageddon," she said, and began purring as Dr. Campbell rubbed her back. "But you know, no pressure or anything." Dr. Campbell led them out of the room and to the front entranceway, when he stopped dead in his tracks and looked at both of them. "I can't believe it. I almost forgot, and I tell you, if I forgot this, Bella would not be a happy kitty at all," and he ran out of the room, disappearing behind one of the many doors along the hallway. He came back a few moments later holding what looked to be a small leather book. So this, he said, opening up the leather case to reveal what appeared to be a smartphone within, is a hacking device. You will need this to get past some of the doors and to search some of the computers. Remember, David was first built from the game Agent Zero's mission. He still has some of that core code in him. His control center is designed almost exactly like the game's. Yeah, except this isn't a game, Nancy said, looking at the device in Dr. Campbell's hands. It really did look like a smartphone. No, this is not a game. And the robotic drones and sentries in David's control center will kill you. You don't get any second chances. He held up the device for both of them to see. When you are close to a door or a computer that has a hackable network, the device will vibrate. You have to hold it close to the target, and then you will have a chance to hack the code. If you fail, the system will shut down that terminal, and you will not be able to attempt to hack it again, so be very careful and take your time. Some of them will be easier than others. He then pulled a small, what appeared to be a circular harmonica from his pocket. David likes to use musical notes and musical arrangements as the basis of his mainframe codes. This is what's called a pitch pipe, he said, holding up the small, silver instrument. My teacher used to have one of those when I was in symphony class as a kid. Nancy said, taking it in her hands and blowing through it. It made a flat, monotone harmonic sound. Use this to see if you can figure out the notes. There may be a hidden code in the note letters, but I really don't know, he said before resignedly handing the hacking device over to Michael, who looked at the screen for a moment before closing the case and putting it in his back pocket. He looked at them both with a sympathetic but critical eye. Please be careful. We are all counting on you, he said before stepping backwards a few steps, turning and walking away, leaving Nancy and Michael alone staring at each other. Are you ready for this? Michael said, looking over at Nancy, who was studying the details of the pitch pipe. She glanced up at him and smiled. I have no idea if I'm ready or not, but I'm ready to give this a shot. How about you? She asked as she slid the pitch pipe into her back pocket and grabbed her shoulder bag off the nearby chair. As ready as I'll ever be, I suppose, he said without an ounce of confidence, and they both headed towards the front door to whatever waited beyond.